Hello and welcome to another video. Inside this box, we have an iPod Touch 6th generation. Now, finding these on their original version of iOS, which happens to be iOS 8.4, is incredibly difficult because iOS 8.4 was basically the last version of iOS 8. So these basically shipped and right away they were updated to iOS 9. Now, this specific listing showed an iPod Touch 6th Gen with slide to unlock, which means it could only either be iOS 8 or iOS 9. I messaged the seller, and they said they had many for sale, but that they would find one that said slide to unlock. They also said they would send me a picture of it before they shipped it, and well, I got this box here before I got any message. So we're gonna open it up and see what's inside and hope for an iPod Touch 6th Gen on iOS 8. Let's begin. We have probably the nastiest lightning cable I've ever seen. That is atrocious. I'm gonna keep that off camera. And here we have the iPod. Wrapped in just a few layers of bubble wrap, we should be able to get this open pretty quickly. Just like that. Definitely a 6th gen because we are missing the loop down at the bottom. And this is, of course, the black color. Display looks to be in good condition, although it is a little dirty. Let's see if we give it a clean here, if we have any scratches. And it appears to be in very nice condition. I'm not seeing any cracks, and I don't even think I'm seeing any scratches on the front of this iPod Touch. Moving down to the bottom, we do have a little bit of damage here on the charging port from some repeated aggressive connecting of the lightning cable. The rest of the iPod appears to be in good condition as well. The camera, it looks like there was a case on here based on this circular print left on the iPod. All right, enough of that. Let's see if it turns on. And it does. These iPods are notorious for having poor battery life, so I'm going to connect this one to power as we wait for it to boot. And we are met with the hello slide to setup screen here. Now I do believe you can tell if this is iOS 8 or 9 based on some of the letters because I think the font that Apple used changed. Let's go through the setup, and once we get to the home screen, we're going to see which version we have. Well, I clicked the wrong button, but I can't imagine, has anybody ever actually transferred data from an Android phone to an iPod Touch? That has to be the least used feature in iOS. Now this is feeling like iOS 9. If my memory serves me, having set up so many of these devices, I would be shocked if it's not that. I think iOS 8 is really hard to find on one of these. And I think it is iOS 9 because we have the white music icon. Let's look inside settings just to be sure. And it is 9.3.4, so we could not get lucky with iOS 8, but iOS 9 is still kind of hard to find on these devices. This is, of course, a 16GB model, and it is in good condition, and it is running iOS 9. So we have, this is interesting. I remember there being 4 icons down here in Control Center. I guess there's 5 in this one. We have the flash on the back. We have a stopwatch, I believe, or a timer, excuse me. We have night shift. I don't really know why night shift was important enough to make it into the Control Center, but we can enable that. We have, of course, the calculator, and we have the camera. Now, also included in the iOS 9 Control Center is the volume controls, brightness controls. We have toggles for airplane mode, as well as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, do not disturb, and rotation lock. We also have AirDrop and controls for the music. iOS 9 didn't really give us that many new features. It was kind of a refinement of iOS 7 and 8. But the iPod Touch 6th Gen launched at the very end of iOS 8. So to find one on, I believe, 8.4 or 8.4.1 would be the only versions you could find, is incredibly difficult. The iPod Touch 6th Gen includes the A8 dual-core processor, the same one found in the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, although it is underclocked quite a bit to preserve battery life on this incredibly thin device. The iPod Touch 5th, 6th, and 7th Gen, I believe, are the thinnest iOS devices Apple has ever made. Of course, they are discontinued. Apple ended production of the iPod Touch 7th Gen, I believe, last year, or maybe it was in 2022. I can't quite remember. But the 6th Gen is still a pretty capable device. It would get updates all the way through iOS 12, and it allows you to do everything you could do on an iPhone, for the most part. You have access to iMessage, you can connect to FaceTime, you have iCloud, and of course, you have Apple Music, which was introduced in iOS 8. Now, let's check the iOS 9 wallpapers. I remember these being kind of boring, and I think that still holds true, although the iPods had these unique, colorful wallpapers corresponding to the color of the device. So this one, I think, has this black color. If you got a silver iPod Touch, you got this one. Pink would result in this wallpaper. Gold, which is my personal favorite color for the iPod Touch, would give you this wallpaper, and blue would give you this one. We also have some gradients here, which do look pretty nice. I think we'll go with this one. We'll set that as home screen and lock screen, and there you go. Very pleasant to look at. And of course, having such a beautiful, clean example of an iPod Touch helps a lot. The text is stunning on here. Something incredible about holding a device this thin. Now, if we compare this to something like an iPhone 11 Pro, you can see just how thin this iPod is in comparison. But of course, it's quite a bit smaller, and you lose out on some serious camera capabilities. But of course, you have a headphone jack, which anything newer than an iPhone 6s does not have. So in summary, it is a pretty cool device, but the batteries on these are not very good at holding their charge over time. Their battery life wasn't great when they launched, and they seem to degrade much faster than other devices, especially compared to iPads and iPhones. So there you have it. That's been a look at this iPod Touch 6th Gen running iOS 9. Not quite as cool as getting one on iOS 8, but those are incredibly hard to find, and maybe someday I'll be able to get my hands on one. All right, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope to see you in another video.